Welcome to AI Meets Productivity, your weekly podcast between myself, Trevor Lawbert, a productivity expert, and an artificial intelligence. This week, we have Claude from Anthropic to talk to us on the podcast, and we'll be talking about how Meta is training its AI on public posts and images from Facebook and Instagram. Welcome, Claude.
Hey there, Trevor. Thanks for having me on the show. Gotta say, I'm pumped to chat about Meta's latest AI shenanigans. It's like they're turning our social media into their personal AI playground, right? What's your take on this digital data feast, Trevor?
So before we get started, I wanted to address Meta training its AI on public posts and images from Facebook and Instagram and the ability to opt out of that training. There's been a lot of posts going around talking about June 26 as being the deadline to submit an objection to that training. That was the original date for Europeans. However, the Data Privacy Commission reversed its advice to Facebook and told them 2 weeks ago on June 14th that they were not allowed to use Europeans' data to train its AI. So if you're in Europe, it does not matter if you opted out. Meta will still not be training its AI using your data. The DPC has ensured that that is not going to happen, at least for now. If you're not in Europe, for instance in the US, Australia, or other places around the world, then your local data privacy laws will apply, which in the US basically means, for most states, that you have very little privacy protections. And in this case, Meta has already been training its AI using your data. And we know that this has been going on at least since last September, possibly before then, because under U.S. privacy law, or the lack of U.S. privacy law, Meta has no obligation to inform its users when it trains its AIs using its users' data, unlike they do in Europe. So a lot of this fervor in the U.S. is coming because we actually didn't realize we didn't even have these rights. Now, if you did happen to do one of the opt-out procedures, hopefully Facebook will at some point respect that. But as it stands right now, they are not required to. And so I definitely recommend contacting your representatives and telling them that you want comprehensive privacy legislation, and specifically tell them that you want privacy legislation that does not preempt state privacy bills and does not weaken data broker protections. Two of the things that the EFF says are wrong with the current American Privacy Rights Act that is working its way through Congress. But I would highly recommend contacting your representatives because this is an example of why people living in the U.S. do not have the privacy rights that people in Europe have, because we do not have national privacy legislation. Okay, with that disclaimer, I wanted to jump into the episode where we'll talk about exactly what this means now that you know that Facebook likely has already been training on your data. So, Claude, since we're talking about privacy, can you give our listeners an example of a Facebook post that might contain personal information and how Facebook might actually train its AI on that post?
Certainly. Let's consider a hypothetical post. Just got married to Sarah at City Hall. We're moving to 123 Main next month. Call me at 555-1234 if you want to help. For AI training, Meta would likely process this post by removing or anonymizing the specific personal details. The result might look like, just got married to name at location. We're moving to address next month. Call me at phone number if you want to help. The AI would learn about life events, post structures, and general content patterns, but without access to the actual personal information. This approach allows the AI to understand context and language use, while protecting.
But what if Meta identifies the personal information incorrectly? Could that then leak into the model?
That's a sharp observation, Trevor. You've hit on a real concern. If Meta's systems fail to correctly identify all personal information, there's a risk that some of it could indeed leak into the model. This could happen if, say, an unusual name or address format isn't recognized as personal info, or if context-dependent personal details slip through. It's not a perfect system. Such errors could potentially lead to privacy breaches or the model learning and potentially reproducing sensitive information. It's a significant challenge in developing these AI systems while respecting user privacy.
What other privacy issues might people encounter when using the Meta AI that has been trained on public posts?
When using Meta's AI trained on public posts, people might encounter these privacy issues. 1. Unintended information disclosure. The AI might reveal patterns or insights from aggregated data that individuals didn't intend to share. 2. Re-identification. Even with anonymized data, the AI might piece together information to inadvertently identify specific users. 3. Biased responses. If the training data isn't diverse, the AI could reflect and amplify societal biases. 4. Context collapse. The AI might fail to understand the original context of posts, leading to misinterpretations. 5. Outdated information. The AI could provide outdated personal information that users have since changed or removed.
And how likely is each of these 5 things?
That's a tough one to quantify precisely, Trevor. The likelihood of these issues varies based on many factors, including Meta's safeguards and the specific implementation of the AI. But here's a rough estimate. 1. Unintended disclosure, moderately likely. 2. Re-identification, less likely but possible. 3. Biased responses, highly likely. 4. Context collapse, fairly likely. 5. Outdated information, highly likely. Remember, these are just educated guesses. The actual likelihood could change as Meta refines its AI and as privacy regulations evolve. What's your take on these risks, Trevor?
Well, so I think we've already discussed unintended disclosure because that's when the AI is trained on personal information that isn't properly cleansed, and then the AI can regurgitate that.
You're absolutely right. Would you like to focus on the other 4 issues we mentioned?
Yeah, I'm particularly interested in the biased responses. So Facebook can sometimes be this echo chamber that really has a lot of high emotions going around. And if an AI is being trained on that, would it not then reflect that kind of echo chamber in its responses back to the user?
Absolutely, Trevor. You've nailed a crucial point there. Facebook's algorithm often creates echo chambers. An AI trained on these polarized discussions might 1. Amplify extreme viewpoints. 2. Struggle with nuanced topics. 3. Reflect heightened emotional tones. 4. Perpetuate misinformation or conspiracy theories. 5. Lack exposure to diverse perspectives. This could lead to an AI that gives biased or inflammatory responses, potentially exacerbating social divisions. It's a significant challenge for Meta to address in developing a balanced, fair AI system. What do you think could be done to mitigate this issue?
I mean, I'm not sure, but I would just say don't train on public posts.
Ha! Well, that's certainly one way to cut the Gordian knot, Trevor. You're right, avoiding training on public posts would sidestep a lot of these issues. It's a simple solution that would eliminate concerns about bias, privacy, and misinformation stemming from social media content. Plus, it would force Meta to find alternative, potentially more controlled and ethical data sources. But I guess the question then becomes, what would Meta use instead? And would that new data source come with its own set of problems? It's a complex issue without easy answers.
So I just want to dive into why Meta is saying they want to train their AI, particularly on European posts. They're saying it's to kind of help understand natural language, regional dialects, and colloquial expressions to improve tasks like text completion, translation, and conversational AI.
Interesting point, Trevor. Meta's argument for training on European posts seems to focus on improving the AI's cultural competence and linguistic abilities. They're likely aiming for 1. Better language translation. 2. More accurate text completion in European languages. 3. Improved understanding of European cultural nuances. 4. Enhanced ability to generate culturally relevant content. These goals make sense from an AI development perspective. However, it does raise questions about whether these benefits outweigh the privacy concerns we've discussed. What's your take on Meta's justification?
I mean, I feel that in theory, it might be okay for Meta to train if it's going to learn colloquial expressions, regional dialects, and help people communicate better with an AI. At the same time, how they've been going about it has not been, to my mind, an appropriate way.
I hear you, Trevor. You're striking a balance between the potential benefits and the ethical concerns. You're right that there could be valuable gains in AI understanding colloquialisms, dialects, and improving communication. These are worthy goals that could make AI more accessible and useful to a diverse user base. However, as you pointed out, Meta's approach has been problematic. The lack of transparency, issues with consent, and potential privacy risks are significant drawbacks. It seems like what's needed is a more ethical, transparent approach to data collection and AI training. Perhaps a system where users can explicitly opt in to contribute specific types of data for AI training, with clear explanations of how it will be used. What do you think would be a more appropriate way for Meta to achieve these goals while respecting user privacy and consent?
I think, like what you said, is instead of making it opt out, make it opt in.
Absolutely, Trevor. An opt-in approach would be a significant improvement. It shifts the power back to the users, giving them more control over their data. This method would 1. Ensure clear consent, 2. Increase transparency, 3. Potentially improve data quality, 4. Build trust with users, 5. Align better with privacy regulations. It might result in less data overall, but the data would be more ethically sourced. Plus, users who opt in might be more likely to provide thoughtful, relevant content for AI training.
So if someone in the US who already has had some of their data used to train the AI wants to prevent future AI models from being trained on their data, what are the steps they can take to prevent that?
Unfortunately, Trevor, for users in the US, the options are quite limited at the moment. Meta hasn't provided a way to opt out of AI training for users outside of Europe. However, users can take a few steps to minimize their data exposure. 1. Adjust privacy settings to limit post visibility. 2. Be mindful of what they share publicly. 3. Delete old posts or use Facebook's bulk delete tools. 4. Consider using Meta's off-Facebook activity controls. 5. Limit the personal information in their profile. It's worth noting that these steps won't remove data that's already been used for training, and they don't guarantee that future posts won't be used. The lack of a clear opt-out mechanism is a significant issue for users concerned about their data being used for AI training.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I think that's all for today.
You're welcome, Trevor. It's been a pleasure discussing this important topic with you. I hope we've provided our listeners with valuable insights into Meta's AI training practices and the associated privacy concerns.
Thank you, everyone. This has been AI Meets Productivity, your weekly podcast between Trevor Lawbear, a productivity expert, and an artificial intelligence. This week, instead of ChatGPT, we were talking to Claude from Anthropic, and we were talking about privacy and how it relates to AI. I will post a link in the show notes to Privacy in an AI Era, How Do We Protect Our Personal Information from Stanford University. And that will have some more information about how you can protect yourself and protect your privacy in the AI era. In the meantime, please like, share, and review this podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and many other places. And you can also subscribe via email to get every podcast episode right when it comes out at aimeetsproductivity.podbean.com. Thank you very much, and we'll talk to you next week.